Welcome, everyone, to Fearless Female Entrepreneurs, where you'll receive expert advice and inspiration from 18 feminine leaders and entrepreneurial experts who want to help you supercharge your power as a feminine thought leader and initiate your own powerful rising. So I'm Jocelyn Mercado, your host, and I am here today with Dr. Tayria Ward. Welcome, Tayria. Thank you so much for being a part of the event.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I was thrilled when you invited me. I love that you're doing this. I'm excited for you and for your audience.
Yeah, wonderful. And I'm so glad to have you here. And so let me go ahead and just read your bio here for those who may not already know about your work. Dr. Tayria Ward, PhD, has worked intensively with her own and other people's dreams for more than 40 years. And for nearly 20 years, she has been an avid student of Indigenous ways of knowing and being. In 2004, she established Bridging Worlds, a center for working with individuals and groups to bridge the waking mind with the dreaming mind, the domesticated self with the indigenous self, culture with nature, the visible with the invisible, the conscious with the unconscious. Presently, she has a private practice specializing in dream analysis in Asheville, North Carolina, where she works with clients in person, by Zoom, Skype, or by telephone. She also offers dream groups, workshops, and lectures. Tayria has a PhD in depth psychology from Pacifica Graduate Institute. Previously, Tayria was a minister in an interfaith organization for 20 years, a professor at undergraduate and graduate levels, and owner of Bridging Worlds Retreat Center in the remote mountains of Western North Carolina, where she conducted retreats and vision quests. And Tayria and I are dear friends and colleagues and work together on so many exciting projects together. So I just can't wait to talk with you today. And I love your topic, which is following the thread of your gift. And I know this is so beautifully aligned with your life's journey and life's adventures. So could you begin by telling us, what do you mean by following the thread of your gift?
Yes, I mean, I love this subject, and I'm going to start with this poem by William Stafford. It's called The Way It Is, and I think it describes it so beautifully. He says, "There is a thread that you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread. But it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you cannot get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread."
I love that.
I love it too. And I just think we all need to every time I read it, I get chills. Because of the truth of it, right? And so I would encourage, all of us to consider, if you have not given much time to considering, what is this thread that's moving through your life that has carried you? And as he says, it goes through things that change. And so if you think about, I don't know, a novel like War and Peace that goes through generations and characters and stories and all that, but there's a thread, and that's what the author or the artist is telling you. And that's that artist's kind of thread. And I know that we've all generally lived various radically different phases of our life. If I started to tell you the radical differences in the different eras of my life, you'd wonder if it was the same person. But the thread was there. It was really guiding me through all these different things. And it's so clear and coherent and consistent. So it's that thread that you're looking for. A friend of mine who was a colleague in my doctoral program was an actor also, and he said they talk about it as the through line. So maybe some people have heard it as that, but for an actor who's trying to figure out what is the through line of the story that they're portraying and of the character that they're portraying, and look at that through line, and that would help the actor stay coherent in what they were presenting when they stepped into somebody else's skin even. So, and when I talked about this somewhat in your radical change Embracing Radical Change Summit, Jocelyn, and I talked on the subtle worlds and the law of one's own being. And that's very similar. And I told then, and if anybody wants to hear a little bit more about what I'm talking about, that interview is also on my website, on the events page or on the resources page.
Okay.
But
I'll put a link to it below this interview so people can find it easily.
Yeah, it's more about this same sort of idea, the law of one's own being, which I love. And so I will retell a little vision that I told there, which tells you a little bit more about this thread or through line in our lives. And in this was a time when I was in Italy and went to Circus Maximus. And that was the place where apparently a lot of the early Christians were martyred by the Romans who were trying to wipe out their faith. And I was so moved by the stories and the place that I bent down to touch the ground there and just say a blessing for the blood that had been shed in that place. And when I did, I had like a waking dream that was so vivid and so visceral. It's as real as anything I've ever experienced. And it was of like this vine that just like popped up through the ground in the sort of imaginal dimension of reality and in that other sort of dreamtime dimension. But it was like when you know the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, the beanstalk that pops up. And it was that, and it was coming through the ground. And I felt like I was connected there to these stories all through time, and that there's a through line through time that we're connected to. So it's not just our one individual life, but what is the through line through time that we are connected to, that is moving with us and through us and guiding us. And that's part of the thread that you never let go of. And for those who know some of the Christian stories, Jesus, who represents that, that light consciousness, says, I am the vine and you are the branches, but it's like that vine of some kind of energy of truth and reality that is beyond even our particular lives and space-time reality. So that's part of it. And the law of one's own being, again, is there are outer laws. There are laws of God. There are laws of your nation. There are laws of your county, your organization that you work for, your whatever. There are all these outer laws that are important to know and to follow reasonably so. But there is a law of one's own being that if you step away from that, it's just as radically harmful and disruptive to your own soul's quest. So you find, what is that law of my own being that I'm moving toward? When you then are finding this and want to make it your livelihood, and that's what you're doing, Jocelyn, is helping people find the way to get in touch with their own deep heart and deep soul and their soul's gift. And then interweave that with your way of making a living. And that I think that's what the future needs, is people doing their really, truly authentic, passionate soul's work, the work that only they can do, that is their unique power and gift in the world. And it's not to say that, people who work as, in any regular profession of, like a bank teller or on a factory line or anything, they're affecting the whole world by what they do. They're really, it's so necessary and so needed. But there are some of us who are trying to make a business out of this, this thread, this calling that we have. And that needs some kind of unique help and support and inspiration and guidance and encouragement. And so that's why I love what you're doing with this summit, Jocelyn. So
that's for sure. We need a lot of unique help and support and inspiration on this path, don't we? Because it's always, whenever we set out to create a business, it ends up being a whole journey of your own into your own personal inner workings and your soul's reason for being here, and all of that is what comes up. So it's pretty amazing.
And like William Stafford says, others can't see that thread, and so all you have to do is say it's a thread I'm following. You know,
Right.
it's just like not everybody knows what you're doing, and that can be part of the real challenge there.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have such an amazing and compelling story of, kind of stepping off of the highly recommended path, right? And doing and following your thread in beautiful ways and magical ways. So I would love to have you share, and especially, I think your story is especially important for anyone who might be, in an academic career or in a professional career, who is afraid of jumping off or having fears about jumping off from that, that highly accepted, you might be very successful and moving up the ladder in your career, but feeling the need to do something completely different because it's in alignment with your heart and soul. And I think your story, Tayria, is just going to speak so strongly to those women out there.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's kind of fun to tell your own story because it doesn't always get told. But so my story is, well, I followed this thread. I can tell stories about how I followed the thread even since childhood, and a lot of it had to do with listening to dreams. Even as a child, I was always my dreams were more real to me. I can remember sitting in a classroom, and the classroom was kind of like, I was a good student, but it felt like a dull light. Whereas the dreams that I'd had the night before were like this bright light in my head, and so I was having to and I noticed nobody else talked about dreams. So I learned not to talk about them. Nobody in school, in my church, in my household, nobody talked about them. So it was always that inner private life. So when I met the woman who was my spiritual teacher at age 24, and she was all about dreams, and everybody in the community there was talking about dreams, I was like, oh, I found my tribe, my people. I can talk about this. My whole life it had been this closeted sort of like reality that was so real to me. So that kind of led me through, and I was part of that organization for 20 years. I think probably most people know through just living life that the shadow of an organization is that it becomes a way of doing things that is the right way, and that it can be very hard to individuate when you're highly aligned with an organization, whether it's a church or a business or even your family or whatever it is. There's a right way of doing things. And so finding and following your own thread sometimes takes you into and through and out of a variety of organizations. And that's a part of the challenge, because that can be heartbreaking. It can demolish your income source. It can do a lot of things to you. So but it's about sort of the sense of integrity and faith that you put in following your own quest. So when I moved out of that organization, I went to get my PhD in depth psychology, largely because of Jung and Freud's interest in dreams. And so I wanted to come to it from a scientific point of view and know how to work with dreams. So that was a big part of it. So then in getting my doctorate, I started working in a graduate school in their public programs at Pacifica Graduate Institute, and also in a undergraduate school. And so I was really lining myself in academia to teach what I was teaching. Meanwhile, along this course, I'd gotten very interested through some profound experiences in the indigenous ways of knowing and being. So I was teaching all of these things in classrooms in Southern California, where I'd been living for 30 years. But students were coming into my classroom off the freeway with their cell phone in their pocket. And I was talking about the indigenous awakenings and this other dimension of reality. And I felt like it was really challenging. I really wanted to move into a place where I could experience living out in nature, in the wilderness, and bring people to that. And so I waited through the years of my daughter graduating from high school and taught in academia, but increasingly knew that it was going to be inauthentic and a little bit soul killing if I didn't do what I needed to do, which was, one, live in wilderness myself, and two, bring people into it so that I could teach in an environment that was highly supportive of what I was trying to help people to awaken in themselves. And so I found a place through a great, it's its own great story of how I found a place in North Carolina, in the oldest mountains in the world, here in Western North Carolina. The Appalachian Mountains are the oldest mountains in the world. And these mountains called to me when I discovered them and began to resonate as the place where I could do this work that I was thinking of. And then I started having dreams, dream after dream after dream. Again, that's its own story. Those dreams were phenomenal. But if I hadn't listened to those dreams, who was I? And the dreams were guiding me here. So any kind of rational person, it seems, after you get your PhD, work so hard to do that. You're working in academia, you're having successes there. I was teaching in conferences all around the country. I was doing all kinds of things that seemed to promote what I was trained to do. But I felt so deeply called to live in the wilderness and do this work and start my own retreat center. So the dreams helped support that. Mm-hmm. So that I could, it wasn't a rational thing to do. It was, I moved to a place where I didn't know anyone, in the middle of the wilderness, a girl from LA. It was amazing, but I felt so supported by it. And so, and I used to tell people when they came to the mountain to do the retreats with me that I had a business partner, and that was the mountain. And I took 50% of the credit for what was arranged and experienced there. Mm-hmm. And the other 50% fully went to the place, to the power of the mountain and the power of nature and what addressed people there, that had its own psyche and its own consciousness. Everybody had their own experiences there that were so unique for them, designed just for them by this natural environment. So you go through ups and downs, highs and lows, but you follow the thread. So.
Well, I'd love to hear more about the role of the dreams. How did the dreams guide you, and how can we look at dreams in general, in our lives to guide us?
Yeah, dreams, as you know about me, Jocelyn, and most people who know me at all know that dreams are really important to me, and that I see them as important to us as humans, and that they have been important to humans throughout the through line of history until just recent decades, when sort of the scientific revolution came and they got discarded somewhere along the way. And the work of depth psychology and Jung and Freud's work are helping to bring that back into the public sort of lexicon and consciousness. But I would say, if you look at any of the scriptures, I think it's so amazing that some Christian people think dreams are like woo-woo, but it's all through the stories. Joseph was guided in the dream to name him Jesus. Joseph was told to take him to Egypt in a dream to escape Herod's threat. All of the things come through. All of the Old and New Testament happened in dreams. So I would say to people, talk about your dreams, awaken your connection to them. I just feel like I said, they were so alive for me as a child, and I didn't have anybody to talk to about them with. So realize the poverty of your own experience, if that has also been your experience, and start to talk about it. Your friends, your partners, your children, especially talk to your children about their dreams and your dreams. Awaken this knowledge and awaken your connection to the dream. And like I said, it was the dreams that, if I hadn't had those dreams, I don't know if I could have moved from Los Angeles to the middle of nowhere in North Carolina. It was totally the power of those dreams that gave me the confidence and the vision for it. So
like a confirmation of what you already know in your heart and in your logical mind, but then when it comes through in that way, it's on another level.
And you recognize it's coming from a divine source, basically. Mm-hmm. So if you're not to follow that divine source, there's trouble for you. I think you're really stepping aside for something really important. Mm-hmm. If you sort of recognize it's from a larger mind and a larger experience of the world. You know, some people have different names for that, but I think divine source is simple enough. So yeah, and then when I got to the mountain, you know, I was bringing people into nature. We were doing vision quests, but it was the dream work that I did with people just in the mornings there that ended up being what I felt like was most potent for everyone. And then I'd get the calls back. So it was like the dream kept calling back to me. And in my doctoral work, I was so blessed to have teachers that had trained and taught me so well. And my spiritual teacher trained and taught me so well. So I felt like I'd been gifted my whole life with the dream knowledge and experience, and able to really follow some masters in their master work with the dreams. And so then when I was doing the work, I felt like I'd been, you know, really trained and taught by, and that was part of the gift that was given to me. And then the gift I was able to experience. And I often experience, Jocelyn, when I'm sitting in my office and I tell somebody, you know, talk to somebody about their dream, I regularly, I will say this with humility and gratitude. People say, you really have a gift with this. You know, it's like putting things together that they could not see about their dream, but as soon as I say it, they see it and they can receive the energy of it and the vision and the impulse of it. So I know it's a gift that's been given to me, and I give it back to you by just encouraging you to follow you know, that connection to that divine source that's available to you at all times, waking and sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's something really important about what you're saying here, that this, you know, this gift of being able to work with the dreams and just somehow, you know, connect in with the dream space, you know, that a person has experienced, and help them to understand it. That's a gift that you have that's so strong in you. And you received all the training that you needed along the way, you know. And I think that when we're following the thread, that when we look back, we realize that everything that's happened in our life has helped us to make this big leap, or to, you know, to do whatever it is that we need to do. That's our purpose. That's really our true purpose. And that, and to recognize that we each have certain gifts and talents that nobody else has in exactly the same way.
Mm-hmm.
The gift of
Right.
working with
Yeah.
the dreams.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's so important to really recognize and honor these things, and not just try to charge through our day, you know, accomplishing as much as we can, but instead to sit back and take notice of the thread, as you're saying, and the trainings that showed up for us that we didn't even realize were trainings. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't know until I, you know, could finally stand in my place and look back and say, oh my gosh, I was given all of these beautiful teachers and resources. And also, you know, following the thread of it takes years. I mean, we have to kind of trust that it takes time. We don't get to just pick it up and know it today. We kind of have to reflect on our lives and then follow it through the years, and have patience with it and faith and trust in it.
Yeah. Well, what would you say for someone who's, you know, either starting out on a journey like this, or considering taking a leap like this? What are some of the challenges or the shadows that we might encounter, you know, or that you have seen and experienced?
Yeah, there are many, as we know. You know, I guess I'll start with saying what I mentioned already a little bit before. There's a problem, I think, in the human psyche around the institutionalization of an idea and fundamentalism. I feel like that's what we're fighting now, in, you know, that's splitting the world apart, this fundamentalist thing that says, I'm right, you're wrong. So I think we have to combat often the fundamentalism in our own psyche, sort of the fundamentalist way we've set up even our own identity, you know, who we think that we are supposed to be because of, you know, the ways that we've been indoctrinated. So it's a matter of recognizing and acknowledging that a lot of these ideas in the fundamentalist and organized ways that we have been trained and raised have been helpful to a point, and then they become soul killing after another point. I remember when I was just beginning to consider resigning from the ministry, which was a very difficult decision for me. I was sitting with some friends, and this guy was a Buddhist guy, and I asked him if I could look at his little book while he and my ex-husband were having a great conversation. And I opened it right up to Buddha saying this story that the Dharma is like a raft, and the raft takes you from this shore to the other shore. But once you get to the other shore, you have to let go of the raft and go along. If you're trying to carry the raft around with you, then you're impeded in, you know, in your journey completely. So, and that to me was like an awakener. It's like, wow, this Dharma that I've been involved in is the raft. It brought me to here. And once I like landed on the other shore, I had to have the courage to let go of it. So I would say to anyone, you know, have the courage to let go of what's worked beautifully. It got you from here to there. It was everything you needed to get from here to there. But once you get there, you have to have the courage to let go. And then once you do, you see your vision, you're following your vision, you just don't, you can't afford fear, just no fear. If I had fear when I moved to the mountain, I don't know what I would have done. It would have just crippled me. I couldn't. I love you have this as fearless female entrepreneurs, because the fearlessness is really an important thing to just step into, you know. And it's like a Zen room in our own brain. We can get there. You just it's a place where fear can't vibrate. So you have to get to that place where you have no fear and no doubt. You can't doubt it. So no fear, no doubt. You just go. And it's not that you're not looking for, you know, guiding information, you know, but that's not fearful or doubting. It's just helping, you know, that like other people's ideas or opinions might be useful, but you're holding on to that thread, and you can't fear that when you do that. And other people's opinions are great. But they're other people's opinions. They're not the law of your own being. You know, they're meant to help you find that law and navigate it well. But you have to recognize them for what they are and what they aren't, and how they should help you, and how they can completely be soul killing if you give them too much power. So
yeah, I love that part about just let go of the fear and the doubt. Mm-hmm. Because we, you know, when we step out on this path following our thread and wanting to make a big difference in the world too, I think we can get there. I think we can get to a place of letting go of the fear and the doubt by seeing that there's this much bigger picture for what you're meant to be a part of. You know, it's bigger, like it's bigger than me. It's bigger than you.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's bigger than the individual people whose lives we will touch. It is you know, it's meant to be a larger part of the whole. So we've got to follow it. We've got to just let go of the fear.
Yeah, we do. And the thing is it's a temptation, even like years later when I'm out on the mountain and I would look back at like, what did I do? What? Who gets their doctorate and then goes to live nowhere where nobody can see them and drops off the map? But even at that point, it was a temptation to even start to doubt myself. I could not. I knew I could not. If you let that, it's like a virus that can just take over your brain, like a virus can take over your computer. You can't let that fear or doubt take over and disrupt the wiring in your own spirit. So yeah, those are energies to know that they're tempting, but you can't, you know, you can't touch them. You can't let them touch you.
Yeah. Well, this has been some beautiful advice already, but do you have any other advice that you would give to someone who's listening and really feeling ready to pick up their thread and follow it?
Well, one thing I would say is beware of instant experts. You know, like it does take years to like follow through. So you're not gonna like pick this up and by a week from now, you're going to become the next expert in whatever it is you're doing. You have to have a certain amount of sort of faith in the process, faith in yourself. Like a week from now, 2 weeks from now, you'll have something to offer because you've learned something. But, you know, just be aware of the concept of these instant gurus and instant experts that come up, and then all of a sudden they've been doing this for a whole year now, and they've got everything to teach you. So I would say that that's another temptation, and people pay buckets of money to some of those people because they have a way of marketing. But ultimately, I think it's a dangerous idea and a dangerous path. It's a rare sort of experience that you step into this mastery without playing the scales. You know, it's like a pianist. No matter how gifted they are, they really have to learn the scales, and they have to like follow the masters. They have to learn to follow the masters before they really step into their own gift. And it's like that with us. So a certain amount of humility and a certain amount of, like if you meet an instant expert that has a little thing that you can learn from them, but don't follow them. You know, it's like follow your path.
There's a difference, yeah.
Pick up the tools that they maybe have to offer you. But that's one of the things that I think is a real danger in this sort of instant world that we live in. It's like people aren't taking the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that all, you know, this transformational process it can be intense and it can feel sudden, but really it's gradual. It is a gradual process, because that's how the world works, you know?
Right. Yeah. And so every day with sort of openness, faithfulness, and humility, we wait for the next piece of, you know, of our journey, to the next steps to show up. And we never arrive. We're always on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another piece of advice would be never, ever, ever, ever give up. Just don't give up. And you will go through humiliations. You'll go through times when you did not do well. You did not come across well. You failed your own highest standards, or even moderate standards. Sometimes we fail those too. It's like we have to learn through all those things and not cave in on ourselves and say, see, I can't do it. You can't doubt that. You can do it. You will do it. You are doing it. And the failures are a big part of it. The mistakes are a big part of it. So not to let those discourage us.
Yeah, we can learn so much from the mistakes.
Exactly. And sometimes it takes years, you know. It's like, you know, it's not like we pick ourselves up and then we got it. It's like it sets us on a path to really resolve, you know, what the lesson is in that. So I would say patience and faithfulness are huge parts of all this. And if you don't have instant success, it's rare that you would.
It's normal to not have
right. Success. Yeah.
And what would you say, you know, to someone who is maybe hearing the voice of their heart, hearing the voice of their higher self, but not feeling sure if they can trust that, if they should follow that, you know, what would you say as far as how we can kind of, you know, root into the truth that's in our soul? Like how can we feel that trust and that faith, you know, in order to really to know that this is the right thing to do?
Well, that's a really good question. And again, it's trial and error. You know, like you get an idea and you think, oh, this is the way I'm going to do it. And I'm going to go down this path. And then you take, you know, 20 steps down that path, and it's not going, you can feel whether it's resonant with what you're doing or what your goals are. So you have to know when to let go of that, you know, and there are a lot of little paths along the way that I went down, just sort of testing them out. You know, got a little office in a town over here and did that, and you know, just did some of these things, and they ultimately were fine. They were lessons, learning experiences, but you have to just kind of know when you're coming back then to the thread, to the vine, to the, you know, the main line there.
Yeah, I think that is important to try different things. You know, if you're not feeling sure, or if you you know, have an idea, try it out. Again, be fearless. Try it out.
Right.
see what happens, and then you'll know. And that once you try it, then you'll know, okay, this is great, or this is a little bit off, let me adjust it. But to not be afraid to try different things, because I know that's been my path. You know, it's, some things have failed and that's okay, you know.
Yes. Yeah. And if you don't have those failures, then you're not a natural part of the universe.
Right. Right. Very, very true.
I know. I remember times when I was trying certain things out, and for some reason, I'm often drawn to go sit on a big rock. And so, find your spot. But if I would go and sit on this big rock, I'd start to feel whether what I was doing really deeply resonated with me or not. And if it did, then figure out what the next steps on that journey were. If it did not, figure out how to step away from that journey and have the courage to say, yeah, this particular thing or this particular relationship or this particular alliance, has been nice and taught me some things, but it's time to step away. So it's a lot of trial and error that goes along with it. But if you find that sort of meditation spot inside your own being, and to me, for some reason, sitting on a rock helps me with that. So don't be afraid to just stop and deeply reflect, and then you'll know. And then just try something every day. Just like do something toward it. Even if it's opening up an article or Googling a thing or talking to a person or, just saying a prayer, whatever it is, just stay with it, stay at it, never give up on it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, this has been so wonderful talking with you, and thank you again for sharing your wisdom. And I know that you have a really beautiful free gift to share with the audience, where you're holding a drawing and to give away 3 free 1-hour sessions. Would you like to say a little bit more about the sessions and what people will receive in those?
Yes. If you will write to me at tayriaward.com, Tayria@tayriaward.com, and you'll have that link. Just tell me that you're interested in the drawing. And what I will do with you is really whatever you want to do. But if you have some dreams that you think might be supporting, your ideas, or you've been following these threads and through lines in your life, and you need some reflecting partner with you to help you think about that and what your ideas are and what things are showing up. I would be glad to be your sort of listen to your dreams, listen to your waking dreams and musings about this, and help you get in touch with your own sort of guidance around it. And just help you reflect with it. I mean, this is what I do all day long is talk with people and help them to listen to their dreams and also the dream of their life. And, sometimes we can't see ourselves except in a mirror. And so I hold up that mirror for you so you can see what it is that you're looking at. So I will do an hour session. These are I can do these sessions with anyone, but I'll give 3 of them away. So just write to me and let me know if you want to have the experience, if you'd like to try it out.
Yeah, wonderful. And I just want to say to everybody that, as I mentioned, I've worked with Tayria so much, and her insights and her ability to see, beyond the surface level that that of what might be there is just incredible. So you will receive so much in these sessions, whether you choose to work with dreams or choose to work with, as she just said, the dream of your life. There's so many things that happen in our lives that are messages and information that we can use. So you will be very, very glad to that you took Tayria up on this on this offer. So go ahead and submit your request. And so if you scroll down just a little bit, I will, right below where this interview recording is, you'll see her email there, and you'll be able to just copy and paste that into your email and send her note that you'd like to enter the drawing.
Okay. Yes.
So,
and I'll
yeah.
look forward to meeting some of you and hearing from some of you, and
Yeah.
answer questions if you have them. Certainly, I don't mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you again. So glad to have you here as a part of Fearless Female Entrepreneurs. Love the fearless part that you brought up today, especially.
Yes.
So yeah, really, really wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of this with our audience.
Thank you for inviting me, Jocelyn, and blessings to everyone, and blessings to this great work that we're doing as feminine entrepreneurs.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
All right, you too.
Hi, everybody. After we recorded Tayria's interview, she reached out to me and she said there was something that was really important that was not included in the initial recording that she wanted everybody to know. And so we are here again to just record a little extra segment for you. So here's Tayria.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I mentioned to her after the interview that I was so disappointed that I hadn't included this piece of information that has been so important to me my whole life. And so Jocelyn said, well, we can just add it on. So Jocelyn is forever creative and never says die. She's amazing. So anyway, here it is. Buckminster Fuller was a great influence on me. I knew him my whole life. He was a friend of my father's. And so I used to listen to him talk starting at the age of very young. And I heard him say this when I was a teenager, and I swear I'm almost 68 now, and it's affected me my whole life, and I really wanted to give it to you. And what he said that I really took in, even as a young girl still living at home, he said, whatever you do in life, do what makes sense, and sense, C-E-N-T-S, will follow. And so he just, he really elaborated on that so wisely and beautifully. And I wish I could tell you more of his elaborations. But the idea that if we're just doing what makes sense to us, the money and the support and the abundance just naturally arrives. And I wouldn't say that with such confidence if I hadn't lived by this my entire life. And I feel so grateful to have been taught that. And I really did want to pass it on to you. And, you know, I know that, you know, that we have mortgages and bills to pay and that sort of thing. So the sense, sometimes C-E-N-T-S comes in front of the what makes S-E-N-S-E. And so, you know, there'll be those moments when we maybe have to do something that switches those priorities. But I would say in general, for the most part, just do what makes sense to your soul and know that the abundance of the universe just flows when you're doing that. And I know that I could not have left Los Angeles and an academic career and all those things and moved to the middle of the wilderness where I didn't know anyone to start a retreat center if I hadn't had solidly the faith and the idea that this principle was going to support me. And it has. I'm not in debt. I'm doing well. I'm doing fine. I'm not massively wealthy, but it has always served me well to know that. So I wanted to share it with you. And
I want to say something quickly because it's so interesting. There's a theme that has come up in almost every single interview so far. And it is that we have got to follow what's right for us, right? And I think that is so aligned with what you're saying here about what makes sense, because it's what makes sense to us, to me as an individual, to you as an individual entrepreneur, right? Like to follow our path, not try to copy or mimic what others are doing, like do what makes sense for you.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes that voice is hard to find because we've been so indoctrinated to be fearful, basically, about support. So it can be really hard to find our own voice. But once we do, and once we know what that thread is that we're following, then to have faith in that is a very powerful thing. Mm-hmm. So I have some quotes here that kind of support what we're saying. And so since we have this extra minute, I wanted to share them with you. The first one is, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Goethe was a German writer, so inspirational, really influenced a lot of great thinkers who came after him. And he says this one, which I absolutely love: magic is believing in yourself. If you can do that, you can make anything happen.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that beautiful? And I just think if we just put that on your wall somewhere, every day we need to remind ourselves believing in ourselves is magic. And it's so easy to sort of slip on that, you know, go down the slippery slope of not believing in ourselves. So, and then this one is by William Hutchinson Murray. And it's often attributed, you may have heard it, but I'm going to repeat it for the listeners who haven't. And for those who have, it's always good to hear again. It's often attributed to Goethe because he quotes Goethe in it. So anyway, but the author is William Hutchinson Murray. He's a Scottish writer, lived earlier in this century, died in 1996. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. I have learned deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets: whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it.
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
And I think, and that's one that I heard early in my career that's also sort of been with me the whole way, that once I make a decision, all the synchronicities begin to happen and providence is moving too. So when we make that commitment to ourselves, to the work that we want to do, just know that the universe, now providence, is set in motion and it's going to support you. And I would say, also always, you know, trust in those synchronicities that happen. You know, those are the beautiful signs that the universe has got your back, is paying attention, wants to give you encouragement and love and support. So I wanted to share these extra thoughts with you. So P.S.
Yes, it's a P.S. on the video.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. I just am loving the talks that I am hearing in your great event here, and hope to take them all in as we go. And am so grateful to have the whole package so that I can really, really take it in. You have such a genius for finding the right people at the right time, just genius people that you find. And I'm so grateful that you bring that all to us. Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tayria. That's how I found you.
Some kind of magic brought us together too.
That kind of magic, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
so grateful for that magic, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
well, thank you so much for these additional thoughts. This is really powerful. So beautiful to leave our listeners with this. So.
Yeah, I'm glad that I could have the chance to share that. So thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you all. Blessings to all.